covering the world of professional wrestling from post to post. A show for the Busted Open Nation. This is the Nation's Corner. Here are your hosts, Front Row, Sony, Justice, and Jim Howard.
What's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to the Nation's Corner. I am Front Row. Alongside me this week, we have Tony Justice, the greatest truck driver of all time. And out in California, we have Trenda. Trendalicious. What's up, people?
Hey.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Glad to be here tonight.
Yeah, let's go, man. Let's go.
Okay, we got a lot of ground to cover tonight and about an hour to do it. So let's make sure we get everything covered. So first of all, how was your week? How's everybody doing? What have you been up to this week besides watching wrestling?
Well, for me, it's been mostly watching wrestling. There's been so many good shows, to watch, and then I was still catching up from, the previous trip that we had. It just been really a lot of wrestling.
Tony, where are you at tonight?
I am in Oklahoma tonight. Decided to leave this morning. I'm headed to North Dakota with a load, and it was kind of hard to tear myself away from the house. I was there for a couple of days and kind of did some family stuff, and I'm trying to recharge, but you don't get that much time at home. It's kind of hard to recharge. So, but yeah, other than that, everything's great.
Nice. Yeah, my office is all torn up here. We've got people coming in to do the hardwood floors this week, so like all the bedrooms are packed with the furniture that we had to clear out of the house. So I've got stuff in a weird position tonight. So if you hear the dog barking and people going by, just don't pay any attention to it. All right, so first thing I want to cover tonight, we got a lot of stuff to go over, but I did want to talk about the Mission Pro pay-per-view that's coming up. Mission Pro pay-per-view on November 20th, Sea to Shining Sea. They've been talking about a lot on Busted Open. As you know, Dave LaGreca was supposed to, I guess, he had challenged Thunder Rosa, and then now it looks like Thunder is going to be facing Laney Luck, who is going to be fighting on Dave's behalf. But then the twist here that we're seeing now is in Thunder's corner, we have Violetta LaGreca. So to me, it's a really interesting dynamic. We've got a LaGreca in each corner, and we've got, two very hard-hitting competitors going at it. And they're advertising this as sort of the end of the line story, but I don't know. So what do you guys think about the way this has been going on the show?
Well, it's very interesting, from the home invasion stuff to the stuff that happens at the Nation Across the Nation events. It's very interesting. And plus, when we were there in Buda back in May, getting to see that live was amazing.
Yes,
I just can't wait. I'll be there on the 20th. I'll be there live in Conroe on the 20th of November to see it all happen, how it's going to go down. I'm so excited.
Well, just like you said, Tony, I'm going to piggyback on that. Being able to see it, how it began, being there in Buda, and that was amazing. And I'm so glad you're going to be there to see if this is the end of it, which I hope it's not, because honestly, between, their first encounter to the talks on Busted Open to, like Tony said, her invading his house and everything, they've been telling a fabulous story. I mean, it has been funny. It's been hard hitting. We saw those webs on Dave's chest when he was, in the ring with Thunder that first time. They're getting the families into it. This is one of the best storylines that's out right now. So if they can drag it on a little more, I'd love it.
Yep.
Yeah, honestly, it's probably one of my favorite stories in pro wrestling right now, and they've done a good job of just seeding it without overwhelming, Busted Open or their individual things with it. So I'm looking forward to see what they do in the next few weeks to continue to build towards it, whether it's on Busted Open, on Thunder's new vlog. Make sure you check out Thunder Rosa's new vlog. It's very funny. The one that came out today was hysterical. But yeah, they've used social media. They've used smaller shows. They've used, the Mission Pro live stream. They've used all these different avenues to tell stories. And I think that's a lesson that I think the bigger companies can learn from. Not that AEW is not a big company, but this story isn't being told there, right? So I look at some of the storylines that we're seeing on major TV, and I'm like, they could do so much more if they followed this model of utilizing social media, people's individual vlogs, whether it's radio and podcast appearances, all of that. Those are all available ways to help flesh out a story and to add dimension. So I think they've done a really good job.
Yeah,
A couple of the other matches on the card that are really exciting. We're seeing Jasmine Allure versus Sky Blue. Jasmine Allure was very briefly your Mission Pro Wrestling champion before Holiday cashed in and took that off of her. So I'm going to be interested to see, with the Renegade Twins. She did send the Renegade Twins away at the end of that match, and they said on social media that they still had her back. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Sky Blue has been a major up-and-comer. We've seen her in Mission Pro and NWA and AEW and a bunch of other promotions. She's been all over the place, making a big name for herself. I don't think she's going into this match planning to lose. So we'll see what happens there. One of the other matches that I'm really, really interested in is Rache Chanel versus Zeta Zhang. And Zeta Zhang, we saw in NXT. She was there for a while. But more recently, a couple weeks ago, we saw her, was it last week or the week before? It was last week on Bloodsport. She's really good. Like, she's a martial artist of, like, a serious caliber. Like, we never got to see that side of her in NXT. And that match in Bloodsport that she had was very hard hitting. I think she faced KZT, Karen Tran. And so this is going to be a banger, as Holodead said about 400 times on Busted Open. It's going to be a banger. So I think the whole show is really shaping up. And Mark Henry's favorite person is going to be on the show, the Woad. The Woad is facing off against Kylan King, and you've got two big, strong women. I don't know who's going to win at this one. And we're going to do a bigger rundown of the card as the rest of the matches are announced. And I think we're going to be lining up and be talking to some of the good folks over at Mission Pro about getting some of the talent on our show here. So not to spoil anything, but we've got some stuff lined up that'll be pretty exciting. And Tony, I know that you're going to be there. Who else is going to be there with you?
So far it's going to be Money Mark, Garza and his beautiful wife Robin, and RA is going to be there with us as well.
All right, we'll have a good little representation of the crew there. It's awesome.
Yeah. And there's another one that's talking about going. I don't know if she's going to make it or not, but she is considering it. So Ashley's talking about coming as well. So we'll see.
Okay, yeah, that'd be cool. I know I traded messages with Dave LaGreca yesterday, and he's really excited, a little nervous, but he's really looking forward to having the nation show up and support him. I don't know how many people he's going to get on his side against Thunder Rosa. It's hard to root against Thunder Rosa, but we'll see.
Well,
as long as he keeps that Mama Fratelli wig back in Jersey, it doesn't bring that.
Wow.
He was there pretty well with
that was something to behold. I think I need an 8x10 signed of him as Thunder Rosa. That's what I need on my wall. We'll see if we can get Scotty to make a LaGreca head.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's already got a fat head of him as
probably in the works.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk more about that over the next few weeks. Like I said, maybe get some of the competitors on the show. The big news this week, I think the biggest news to come out of wrestling was around Ring of Honor. They've just recently had this big women's tournament. They relaunched their women's division. I thought they did a spectacular job. They put Maria Kanellis in charge of it. They had a lot of Mission Pro women in the tournament, and they crowned Roxy as the new Ring of Honor World Women's Champion. Wow. And I was like, all right, let's go. Like, we're headed in the right direction. And then this week, we find out from Ring of Honor that they are releasing all of their talent and rebranding and rebooting in the second quarter of next year. Like, okay, like, what happened?
I don't know. I think we've talked about this all week because, like you said, it is probably the most shocking thing that's happened in our wrestling community. But I'm looking forward to a lot of them just, landing on their feet, just going to different promotions. I mean, it's so much good talent in Ring of Honor, and they could help out some of these, not saying smaller promotions, but like, Impact could definitely use a couple of people. I know everybody says AEW is super, super full or whatever, but I've already mentioned, the Briscoes, them boys being one of my favorite tag teams ever. Like, I definitely think they should go to AEW because, they have so many fractions over there. I feel like they could tell different stories for a couple of years, and all the great matches that, really dream matches like the Briscoes and FTR, like, things like those are matches that everybody, I'm sure, wants to see. I know I do. So I'm hoping they at the very least land over there. But Jay Lethal and just it's just so many talented people from Ring of Honor, and then they're like grandfathered in, been there from day one. You know what I mean? I'm just hoping everybody lands on their feet and finds a home.
Yeah, and I think that there's a number of talents over there. If you look at the Briscoes, you go, we can plug them into any company and they do well because they're one of the best tag teams in the world. But then you've got a couple of the more curious people, like, where does Danhausen fit? He's not really an NXT guy. Is he an AEW guy? Maybe. Like, is he Impact? Like, where would you
Maybe
take
an MLW?
Mm-hmm.
I can see him fitting in an MLW. I mean, I think he actually does. He's there doing shows sometimes anyway. But like just like you said, it's I don't know, but Danhausen, he's a kind of a character that I think he could fit in anywhere too because he's self-made. I think he knows who he is and he knows his character, and as long as he's made that on his own, as long as he follow his own structure, he'd have to go to a place that allow him to keep his own structure. He'll be fine. He's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of talented individuals over there in ROH that given the opportunity to shine, getting some eyes on them. I mean, it's going to be a no-brainer when they show up in certain promotions, and that it's, like I think Bully said it on Busted Open, how this was could be a blessing in disguise for the talent that was there, because they you could never find them on TV to watch Ring of Honor, and now that they're released from their contracts, I mean, who knows where they'll show up. And, when they do, I mean, people are finally going to get to see, Dalton Castle and, Jay Lethal he's been around the block, he was good in Impact. So, or TNA rather. So, I mean, I'm anxious to see where some of these talents are going to show up.
Yeah, and I know that they've said, and Mark alluded to it on the show this week, that NXT isn't hiring indie wrestlers and people of smaller stature, which was not the term that was used on the show. But you get a guy like Jonathan Gresham, not the tallest guy in the world, but oh my God, is he an amazing wrestler?
Ooh, technical wrestler, one of the best right now.
I would put him in NXT right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and as folks are talking about in the chat, they had gotten this women's division off the ground, and then now of course they just nuked everything. So look at the people that they had over there and where are they going to put them. I think for me, when Ring of Honor talks about rebuilding and rebranding, that's my corporate brain kicks in and they go, all right, well, that to me that means they're going to restructure the way that the television is produced and probably presented. My guess is that they'll probably try to if they're going to try to look at this as a money-making operation, which they should, like you said, Tony, they've got to get TV, and then they've got to sign talent, whether they're going to re-sign some of the people that they let go or look outside of that grouping. I would be very hesitant to sign there if I was a talent. If I was in conversations with them after after all these contracts expire in December 31st, would you go back there? Would you feel screwed? Like, I can't get inside the head of the wrestler, but I would be very hesitant to sign back there.
Right. I mean, one of the good things they did, was through the pandemic was, they took care of their talent through the pandemic, which was awesome on Ring of Honor's part. But it's too early to tell what's really going on. I mean, yeah, it's a shock, but we'll see what happens. What's on the horizon for Ring of Honor. Hopefully, like you said, Front Row, they are rebranding and they come back stronger than ever. But we'll see.
Well, and you've got the big companies, right? You've got Impact, AEW, and WWE all offering like real lifestyle money to top talents. Ring of Honor, if they actually do produce a television show, I think they have to really come to the table with some offerings, like real money, genuine money, money you can support a family on, not just work part-time and then have to go to your 9 to 5. Because that was the case. We had conversations with a lot of the people in Ring of Honor over the last few years, especially the women, and this is public information. They were paying their women $20,000 to $24,000 a year, which is not enough to live off of. So all of those folks were on TV every week, but still having to work a 9 to 5. So, and Mrs. Front Row says, this is a crowded field now. We're going to talk about matches and shows from this week that have nothing to do with Ring of Honor. And just last weekend, between Friday and Saturday, there were 7 shows. So, Ring of Honor has put themselves in a position where they're on the pay no mind list, right? This is now where you've got all the talent in the world on all the major shows. I don't know how they edge their way back into the marketplace.
Out of sight, out of mind, literally.
Yeah.
Out of sight.
And Bully said it too. You've got, NWA's doing big things. They're on Fight TV, and there's been scuttlebutt about them maybe landing a TV deal. You've got all the big MLW's making moves. They're on TV now. You've got Wow Women of Wrestling premiering. You've got so much content out there in the industry. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I wish them well. Like, I hope that the talents get good positions there. But I don't see us supporting them financially. So,
right.
So many other good people out there. We'll keep supporting folks like Mission Pro. So let's move on to some of the other stuff that happened. I know not everybody saw Bound for Glory last weekend, but I'm going to hit some of the highlights because I think some interesting stuff happened. And specifically, Trenda, we saw Gail Kim inducted Awesome Kong, and you had the chance to meet up with Awesome Kong in St. Louis and talk a little bit about her retirement. Did you get a chance to see the highlights from the induction?
I did see the highlights from the induction, and it was just amazing. It's like it was a surreal moment because it was sad, but I was so happy for her at the same time because I've been watching Asukan forever. I mean, since I was, early 20s, and then my daughter started watching her, and it was something we used to do together, and it really felt like a representation of us, and as a strong woman in wrestling, just not with the thong and the panties and the diva days and things like that. So she was such an awesome representation of what I wanted to see or wanted to even be, in a female wrestler. So it's just a surreal moment. I'm just really happy for her, and can't wait to see what the next lifetime or next jobs hold for Kia, because that's what she told me to call her now. No more Awesome Kong. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, and so we also saw the inspiration, Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay, formerly the Iconics, make their debut and win the Impact World Women's tag team titles, which is pretty cool. I usually push back at people debuting and winning titles already, but they're established. Like, people know that they're a credible team. just from another organization. So like I'm very, very happy to see them brought in as a package deal because they work really, really well together in the ring.
Yes.
But more importantly, like their charisma and the stuff that they did behind the scenes, you know, like all the backstage stuff, even the social media stuff and their current podcast, they are so entertaining.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad to see them together again.
Yeah.
Basically, you know, that's the most important part because they do play really good off of each other. And when they had to separate for that little time, you know, when they were in WWE, it was just like, why? Why would you do this to them? So I'm glad they've taken on the Dudley mentality and saying we're a team and inseparable. Take us together. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. And so the big match that, you know, not the big match, but one of the big matches on the card was for the Knockouts Championship, and Deonna Purrazzo was defending her title. She lost in a very hard-hitting match against the legend Mickie James. So now Mickie James is a 10-time world champion. And, you know, first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, we've seen her wrestle in person in St. Louis. We've had a chance to talk to her a couple times in St. Louis and in Baltimore. I'm really happy for her, but I'm really happy for the possibility of who she's going to defend against because there's a lot of talent out there.
Yes. I know this is going ahead a little bit, but even from Impact from this week, I love the fact that Madison Rayne was the person who came down there because it's almost it's a nostalgia match. You know what I mean? To have them two together and to see like it's almost like TNA over again. I loved it. I love the promo. It was great.
I agree.
So we also we briefly saw Josh Alexander win the Impact World title.
Briefly,
and Moose came out and spoiled the show for him, right? Moose takes the title off of him and then cuts a promo that went viral this week. And he made allusions to the Elite and the New Day and just everybody from everybody across the board. He wasn't disrespectful, you know, as we were talking about before, but he was very like, okay, I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm saying I'm the best world champion right now. Come and prove me wrong. I respect that. I mean, he's not on the most popular show, but they're trying to get eyes on their product. And that promo did exactly that. The promo did like a ton of views. I don't remember, but I think at one point I saw one of the copies of it was over 1 million views. So, you know, that's big for Impact. That's way more people than actually watch the show. So it's very cool.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. We see that on Raw. You have 1.5 million or 2 million people watching Raw, but a clip will do 10 million views.
Mm-hmm.
That's where people are watching. That's where people are consuming your content. So I hope that their pay-per-view buys did well, and I hope that their next, you know, they continue to do well because I think the company as a whole is doing a lot. And we always talk about what a strong women's division they have.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, say something interesting in your promos to get attention and hopefully get more views on your product. I mean, that in what Moose did on his promo, I think, you know, could do just that. I mean, you know, start calling people out or whatever from other promotions, you know. Do something shocking, get people interested in Impact because, you know, we keep saying it, you know, Impact, you know, it's not TNA like TNA was. I mean, Impact is it's coming up, but I think they've got the right pieces of the puzzle with Mickie the champion now. Mickey's going to be able to elevate, you know, so many different women, and I can't wait to see who. You know, and with Moose as the world champion, you know, let's go. Let's see what he's got, and you know, let's watch Impact and see what happens.
Yeah, let's watch Impact.
I would love to. There's just too much stuff on right now. But you know what? And this is where it comes back to what we were talking about, fighting for your airtime, fighting for your bandwidth, right? So like if Impact is doing stuff that's more interesting to me, I might be more likely to watch this week's Impact than Raw. Like if Raw's doing the same shit every week, I might go, oh, like Impact has been doing some really interesting things. I'm going to give them a chance this week. Or like we were talking about too, like there are people in our group that only watch Dark and Elevation and don't watch the WWE products. So it's all in what you gravitate towards, you know, what style of wrestling you want to watch and what tickles your fancy. So let's talk briefly about Raw, because I know we don't cover it a lot, but there were a couple of interesting things I think that happened on here. And the first is the Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch promo. I haven't seen anybody so natural so early in her career as Bianca on the mic. She's got some work to do, but she, like, I believe that she believes everything she's saying.
Yeah, definitely. You can see it in her, in the way she delivers, the way she's talking. It's like she's not playing a role. You know, it's not a character. This is who I am. I am the EST, and I mean the best at everything I do. And she says it with confidence, and when she says it, I believe it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and her time in the ring with veterans like Charlotte and Sasha, and of course her matches in NXT have only elevated her, because it feels like, and from Mark has said, you know, because Mark Henry obviously recruited her, she's a sponge. She pays attention. She listens to the people who know more than her, and then she puts it into action right away. And that's only the secondhand knowledge that we've heard from the coaches that are with her. So I'm super excited to see where she goes. I think pairing her up with Becky makes a lot of sense, because they're trying to keep Becky they make Becky a heel. Bianca's about as big a baby face as you're going to get right now. So
exactly.
I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on the whole Bearcat Lee thing. So, you know, when Keith Lee re-debuted as Bearcat, there was a lot of pushback on that until people started to understand the history behind the name. Bearcat Wright being the first WWF African-American champion. And by all accounts, a bad dude, from what I've heard, you know, other veterans talk about, but a historic guy nonetheless. So to me, that feels more like maybe a Keith Lee thing rather than a Vince McMahon thing. So them labeling him as Bearcat, and he even used Bearcat's finisher this week on Raw. So I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. I want to see them tell more of that story and connect the dots for me. You know, I want to see backstage or even personal videos of Keith Lee talking about the history and why it's important to him, and, you know, put some substance behind that. How do you guys feel about this so far?
I like it. You know, at first I wasn't sure, because honestly, it's the WWE, and sometimes majority of the time they disappoint. And I don't want them to make it just like you said. I want it to be something real. You know, if this was his idol, if he's taken on you know, this name so that he can pay homage, you know what I mean, then keep him strong, then keep him out there dominating, and keep him out there, you know, so that he can show the dominance of the name that he's carrying. That's the only thing that scares me, is that at some point in time, you know, with a flip of a switch, WWE can change their mind, and then all of a sudden he has the Bearcat name, and he's the biggest jobber in the company. That's the only thing that I'm scared.
Personally, I agree with Mrs. Front Row. Get your own damn name. I can understand them wanting to pay homage to someone, but you had a good name for Keith Lee when he first got called up, Limitless Keith Lee. Let him. Why don't they let him run with that and let him be an unstoppable force like Bearcat was back in the day? I just don't understand it. So, you know, it's one of those Vince knows more than you do things, and Vince knows what he's doing. We're supposed to just go along with it and be all right with it, whatever it is.
So let me ask you this. Oftentimes we see in politics or in the public, a cause will identify someone as like a leader of a cause or a patron saint of a cause, whatever you want to say. And then it turns out that person's not a good person, right? I've heard Mark and a couple other people talk about Bearcat Wright was not a great person. Like he was
Right.
kind of an asshole. And I don't know whether that just meant like he was a tough person to work with or whether there was stuff in his personal life. I don't know enough about his history. But I'm nervous that they're hanging their hat on a name that could bring a negative attention to Keith Lee. That may not be the case, but I hope that doesn't happen.
Right. I agree.
Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about on Raw was around Queen Zelina. I was excited that Zelina won, and they're calling her the Queen of WWE now, which to me was Charlotte Flair. So, like, why are we rebranding that? But I know they also can't call her Queen of the Ring for obvious reasons. So she is very, very good on the mic, but I felt like the promo that she cut this week was very cookie cutter, very scripted. It wasn't Thea Trinidad doing her thing. It was, here's Zelina Vega, here's what you're going to say. You're going to go out there and cut a traditional, I'm better than everybody, I'm now the queen. It didn't do anything for me. And I think that she's much, much better than what we saw this week.
I totally agree. It was almost like she was just reading through her bullet points, just trying to, it didn't have any feeling to it at all. And then it was predictable. At some point you just knew exactly what was coming next. Yes, you. It's all about me.
Yeah.
I mean, it just didn't have any pizzazz or any uplift to it. It was just another segment.
I enjoyed her banter with the ring announcer. I enjoyed, her calling him out, saying that he didn't say it right. He wanted him to repeat himself, and he came back and
Poor
said,
Mike Rome.
Yeah. I enjoyed that. I mean, she can, I think she has it in her to be, to get heat, and to be the heel that she needs to be. It's just a matter of if they're going to let her do what she feels she has to do to get that, or are they just going to rely too much on scripts and bullet points, So I think Zelina Vega could be really good if they just let her go. I'm talking let her go, talent-wise. But,
let her do her thing.
Let her do her thing, I enjoy, her having the crown and the scepter and all that. And, it's just a matter of what we're going to see in the near future with her. Or, she'll be able to be snarky and do all that. Now, I think on the other hand, when you have Xavier Woods as the king, I think that's going to fit his character very well. That's going to take him to a whole new level. He was already up there, but now it's just going to be even more with this crown and scepter, So we'll see.
Yeah, and we're going to get there when we talk about SmackDown, because that was a really good segment. And Debhausen mentioned in here Queen of the Damned, and that's one of Zelina's favorite, it's one of Thea's favorite cosplays is the Queen of the Damned, and she does an unbelievable job. If you haven't seen her, check out her Instagram or just Google it, because it's brilliant. And I hope that she is able to bring that character into WWE, because man, it would be really, really cool. So let's move on from Raw. I wanted to just briefly touch on this week on NWA. They had an empowered version of Power, and we were there for the taping, and it was really cool because they came out. Joe Galley came out and they announced to us that we were going to now be recording an all women's version of Power, an episode of Power, and they did, and it was terrific. We saw Kylie Rae, and Kylie Rae publicly announced last week that she's leaving wrestling for a time to go take care of her mental health. So we wish her well, and hopefully she finds some help and gets healthy. But I did like seeing her, in this match with Chelsea Green and Melina. Chelsea Green, to me, is the unsung hero of wrestling right now. She is all over the place, doing big things, doing different characters in each show. We saw the reemergence of the Hot Mess. And for those of us that have seen it live, holy crap, is she completely invested? I mean, she's everywhere. She was on Impact this week. She did some independent booking. She was on NWA. So it was really cool. And we also saw Sky Blue again. Sky Blue was on this week against Lady Frost. Lady Frost is one of our very favorite, a friend of the show, a friend of ours. And a quick shout out. So speaking of Lady Frost, her husband, Savage Gentleman, made his AEW Dark debut at the tapings this week. So spoiler, but it's been all over social media. We're super happy for Victor Benjamin to make his AEW Dark debut. I believe that's coming up. Is it Dark or Elevation? I forget which taping it was at, but that's coming up this week. And then we also saw, the Hex versus Paula Blaze and Genocide, which was really cool. But the match that I think that really meant the most to everyone was Kiera Hogan and Mickie James. And for those, if you get a chance, go on the NWA socials. Gary Horn recorded an interview with Kiera after this match and what it meant to her growing up, not being able to be herself and coming out a few years ago. And Mickie was, the catalyst for that was really a motivating factor in her life and a mentor to her now, being able to share the ring with her and what that meant to her. So and you were there in the room. It was really emotional. After the tapings, there was a lot of hugging and crying, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that moment itself, you can see even, that they really do care about each other. There's a real connection there, almost like a mother-daughter type of connection there with them. And even though, Kira cut her promo and everything, telling Mickie how, she just felt like she disrespected her or didn't really understand the conversation. I mean, you could just see the emotion between the two of them. I mean, you could feel it through the room. Like there's definitely a mentor relationship there between the two of them, and you can tell that Kiera really values Mickie's opinion and how she feels about her. I think they did an awesome job in the ring, definitely, but it was really emotional.
Okay, Steve. Okay. But yeah, so that was a fun episode. So let's move on to NXT Halloween Havoc. There's just a few things on here that I really wanted to mention. I'm not a fan of the Joe Gacy gimmick. I think it started out interesting, him pretending to do the whole like inclusivity and like it's sort of a shot at the left, which is fine, but I don't think it's being done well. I think it's a weird dynamic. I think he's a guy who's trying to play a character and then he gets in the ring and he kicks ass because Joe Gacy is a great wrestler. It just isn't ringing for me, and I was hoping that they were going to really do something edgy with it. It looked like the first week or two because they get some negative press for it. And I was like, all right, well, this is wrestling. Press is good, right? But it just hasn't been. I think they took 2 steps back from it, and it's just a character now. Did you guys happen to see this week's promo?
I did not see Joe Gacy's promo, but I've seen some of the Joe Gacy stuff from the past, and it's just I get it. When you feel like you're putting on a character, when you're trying different things, and what Bully says, throw what sticks to the wall, throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And I just don't get, when they touch on, issues that are really happening in the country, when they try to feed off of that a little bit, sometimes that can be good and sometimes that can be bad, So, I just don't know how that would work in, on NXT 2.0. But we'll just see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, and so to me, the match of the night was the women's ladder match. It was Io Shirai and Zoe Stark were the champions defending against Toxic Attraction and Indy Hartwell and Persia Parada. This match was unbelievable. I mean, the creativity, we've seen a million ladder matches, and you go, well, they're going to do the same spots. Obviously, they're going to do the same stuff, but they didn't. And Io Shirai took a spill off the top ladder of the ladder on over the ropes, onto another ladder, and onto the ground. I don't know how she survived it, but obviously her training was good enough that she figured out how to land and roll off because she was back in the ring. But holy crap, that was a bump
painful.
It was. Yeah, I don't know if you saw it,
hard
Tony.
it was hard to watch for a second. Like I had to turn away. Like, but they, Io Shirai, she's I feel like she's one of the best technical wrestlers that's really out here right now. And I don't even know if keeping her in 2.0 is even a good thing for her. I kind of would like for her to be able to venture out to another promotion and show her skills someplace else because I mean, I know we can talk about a couple of other 2.0 matches, but this week was actually the first time that I felt 2.0 really caught my interest, and I've been trying to watch it. Yeah, I've been watching it for the past 3 weeks, ever since they did the change and everything, and it's been hard.
Yeah.
It's been a little hard to get into, other than seeing Ciampa and knowing that he's there with the title at that time. That was just he's probably the only one that really kind of kept me going, just knowing that he's still the champ, because it gave me hope that maybe they'll kind of go. I don't know if I want them to go back to the old NXT. I just know that I'm just not really feeling a new one.
Yeah, I get that. I think it took some time for me to really warm up to it, and that's to be expected. We can't just make a good judgment call in week one. But the bright lights and all that stuff, I was like, all right, I get the new branding. But to me, they've actually found a good balance of keeping NXT veteran talent, not veteran talent, but your Tommaso Ciampas, your Io Shirai's, people like that, Johnny Gargano. Those people are still in the mix.
Definitely. Yeah.
Those people are in the mix and doing new things that are making us interested, but they're adding in your Braun Breaker, you're adding in some of the newer talent from like Gigi Dolan, and I'm excited by it. The match quality hasn't suffered. Like, it's still NXT. Like, if you take away all of the glitz and the production elements around the new show, it's still NXT. And to me, that's what I was really looking forward to. And this ladder match told you, like, that was a takeover worthy match.
Yeah. It felt like this was a takeover. Like, it should have been a takeover. It had that quality to it. There was some great matches.
Yeah, because even you fast forward to the women's title match between Mandy Rose and Raquel Gonzalez, like, they beat the shit out of each other. That was a hard-hitting match.
And I was looking at it, that I wasn't expecting that from Mandy. I mean, honestly, from the Mandy that we've seen on Raw and SmackDown, like, that's one thing I can say. I love her character on here. She is dominant. She looks more confident. She's more, more into herself, and she's bringing it in 2.0. I can say that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it looks like Mandy's put on like maybe 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. She's gotten bigger, stronger. She's got the black hair. She's got the whole new look.
Gorgeous, yes.
And she's just an ass kicker, whereas she was more, the eye candy. And she's been a good wrestler for a long time, but she's really getting to show that in-ring talent in this version. So we'll skip over a couple other things. Imperium did defeat MSK to become the new tag team champions. Yep. And we saw Braun Breaker, challenge for the world title against Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa retained, but boy, did Braun Breaker get over as fuck. Like, that guy is going to be a massive star. He cuts good promos. He's good in the ring. He clearly he was following Ciampa through that match, and they had great chemistry. I thought that they signed him because of his name, but he's got a ton of talent.
Oh yeah, they say that he has his dad's strength and his uncle's charisma. Well, yeah, but he's doing awesome. To be a second generation. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So let's skip over to AEW Dynamite, which had some really cool stuff. And I want to get your opinion on this, because like we've seen I draw parallels between Punk and Danielson, right? They came in at the same time. They're both WWE veterans, like all this stuff. And they're both two highly respected technical in-ring competitors. But they're doing very, very different things in AEW right now.
Yeah.
I liked the match that Punk had with Bobby Fish, but it was just a match. Like it was an ROH style match. It was hard hitting. It was good. But then, not to jump too far ahead, but on Rampage, we saw Danielson and Kingston. That was a clinic.
Eddie.
There you go. The Mad King.
Dude,
But I don't know. How do you guys feel about what they're doing with Punk so far?
On both levels, I love it. Just like you said, they're both there doing two different things. You know what I mean? You can tell that Punk is there like mentoring and at the same time he's working with the younger talent, he's getting them over. But I feel like Bryan Danielson is there to kind of give us everything he's got right now for the end of his career, because I've heard him say, he's not going to be wrestling for more than maybe 5 or 6 more years. I don't know how true that is, but that's a statement that he's made. But if this is his last few years, I feel like he's giving us everything, and I'm willing to take it. Like he's elevating. I feel like he's elevating not every wrestler, but every match that he's in, making every match a 5-star match. And the only thing that's the common denominator is him. Like the match with Kenny, everything he touches right now is gold.
It's funny. Gold. It's funny you mentioned Kenny, because Bully always talks about, people at the highest level, your Roman, your Charlotte, your, people, Shirai, like people at the very highest level, they need somebody to lift them up, and it's really hard to find people. Kenny Omega is considered one of the best wrestlers in the world, hands down. How do you get him to the next level? I didn't think there was that person that was going to be there. And then you watch his match with Danielson, you go, oh, that's the guy. That's how that happens.
But see, I feel like with Bryan Danielson, he's the guy for almost everybody on that top level over. Like he is enhancing AEW all alone by himself. Like I said, everybody he's in a ring with for the past couple of weeks, they've been 5-star bangers. Just bangers.
We're gonna get the holiday drinking game going, because I think we've got like 100 in that interview.
And I see Deb in the chat. Just so you know, I see Deb in the chat throwing those little zingers at me. I see what she's doing. Thing I want to say about Punk and Bryan Danielson. Punk shows up, and showing up meaning he shows up so the people can see him. He's out front, rah rah, being that cheerleader type, getting that crowd hype. Mm-hmm. But Bryan Danielson is showing out.
There you go.
He is showing out. Every match he's had is, like Front Row says, a clinic. It's amazing to see Bryan Danielson. It's like he's turned up to 12. And I'm very excited to see the progress, and it's every Bryan Danielson match is not going to be a letdown. I mean, it's just it's going to be something. So
yeah, and I'll say it.
Go ahead.
So, do you think Punk was worth the money?
I do.
Yes, I think he was, because what he brings to the promotion. Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
No, there was just too many people that were missing Punk. I mean, we were all missing Punk. He'd been away way too long. I feel like he is a good thing for wrestling. I feel like he's in the right place in wrestling. He's in the right promotion. And I would like to see Punk in more roles than just being the guy to come out and get the crowd hype. They showed signs of last night on Rampage of some heat between him and Eddie Kingston. I'm on board for that. I want to see where that goes. That is going to be something, because you've got Punk, who's great on the mic, and you have Kingston, who's also great on the mic. So I
Mhm.
feel like if they let this feud go and see what they've got, we're going to have something.
So I want to
Yeah.
call out something Mrs. Front Row said. She said Punk has a vibe, and that's 100% true. And I say that because a couple things, like they didn't hire Punk to pop a rating right now. They hired him because he's an excellent storyteller and he's excellent on the mic. I think we're just seeing him get acclimated to AEW. And like you said, what we saw last night, that little confrontation with Eddie Kingston, that went off the rails real quick. Like you could see Punk's wheels turning, and he was like, I picturing him thinking, I could do this, this, and this right here, and nobody's going to say anything to me because I'm CM Punk, and I can. He knows exactly what he can get away with. I think we're going to see CM Punk, probably the best CM Punk that we've seen in before since Ring of Honor. I think once he's finally figured out who his opponents are going to be, and when he finds that right person, whether it's Kingston on the mic or somebody else in the ring, I think Punk's going to go to a whole different level. And I don't think we've seen anything yet. This is the honeymoon period, because CM Punk as a heel is a license to print money.
Yes.
Thank you.
I agree with that
Totally agree.
statement.
Yes.
Now, what Bryan Danielson said when he came in, he said, I'm not here to be a CM Punk. I'm here to show you what being elite actually means. You think you're calling yourself elite, but I'm actually elite. Like, I'm going to show you how to be the best wrestler in the world is. And then he proceeded to do it. So, like, two very different signings, and I think both of them were worthwhile investments. I'm going to talk briefly about, I did want to just mention MJF. I'm not crazy about what he's doing right now. I think it's a placeholder for something bigger down the road. Mox did bloody up 10, and that the Dark Order Elite Halloween match, it was what it was. It was fun, but it wasn't my thing. But in the interest of time, I wanted to talk about two big things that happened on Friday. Charlotte and Shotzi on Smackdown had an unbelievable match. I'm a big fan of Shotzi. Mrs. Front Row and I saw her in Evolve when she was here on her farewell tour when she gets signed to NXT. Terrific matches. But to see her on Fox with Charlotte for that match was over 20 minutes. I think the whole segment was almost 30 minutes. So they dedicated 25% of their network real estate to Shotzi and Charlotte, of course. And I thought that she'd made the absolute most of that, of her minutes. They say maximize your minutes, and I think she absolutely did that. I'm a little confused about the beatdown with Sasha, because Sasha, Charlotte are heels, and they're turning Shotzi heel, but now you've got three heels, and it was very weird to me. But if you just focus on what Shotzi did, I think she hit a home run.
Definitely. I mean, she was amazing. I felt like Charlotte didn't really have to, work down as much. You can see the effort she was putting in there. She was laying her shots in. I mean, she hit Charlotte a couple of times with some stiff arms that I was just like, whoa. And I wasn't sure, she owed her money or they wasn't getting along. She was really laying it in during that match. And the heel turn, like you said, I see the heel turn. I loved it. I love the way she came out there and did Sasha like that. But it also made the crowd boo her. And you know what they say, you only boo because, you love the other person so much. So this just might be Sasha going back to being a baby face, which, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I know how you might feel about it, but at the same time, three heels fighting over the belt, somebody has to be the baby face somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's how she got the heat. She got the heat because obviously the crowd's loving Sasha right now. Sasha cheered for her through the whole match. Let's go. You got this. She was and which was so weird to me because at the time I'm like, why? Why is she just rooting her on all of a sudden? And then, we saw. So.
Yeah, I think Shotzi You know, she has and always has had that look. You know, she just has that charisma. I think she's in the right place, and for her to be able to be seen on Fox is a good thing. And we'll see what's in store for Shotzi. I think her in the title picture is where she belongs right now.
Yeah, now if you're turning Shotzi and then you're not keeping her in a storyline with Charlotte, but you're going to have her run through the baby faces on SmackDown, all right, that makes sense. That's fine. First of all, I need to know why she's angry. I mean, yes, she lost her match and it was interference and stuff. Like, I need to understand like what the motivation is behind her new, because she's been a babyface pretty much since she came to NXT and WWE. So I'll be interested to see where that goes. I think for me, I was genuinely surprised to see the chemistry between her and Charlotte. Charlotte can have good matches with just about anyone, but there's not always that chemistry. And you can tell when Charlotte kicks in that gear and she gets physical and her speed increases. And when she's in there with people like Asuka and Becky and even Rhea. But I felt like Shotzi brought some physicality, and I don't obviously know Charlotte, but like I have to think that she was happy with that match because it seemed to go really, really well. A couple other things from SmackDown. You touched on it earlier. King Woods. I mean, the story has been telling itself for over a decade. He has video of himself years and years and years ago wanting to be king of the ring. And through that whole tournament, you were rooting for him. You were hoping it was going to happen, but it's WWE. They could have squashed it at the end. They could have just teased it and it not happened, but they made it happen. And so two things happen. Xavier Woods quotes Golden Girls. We all popped. Tremendous. And then he quotes Game of Thrones. Second pop in the room, right? Zoom was super happy. But then he knights Kofi Kingston, and then he makes him the Hand of the King. I'm like, all of this is tremendous as far as like nerd culture and like all the stuff that we're interested in. Everything's, intersecting, and Xavier Woods is the master of doing that. I hope he's king for the next 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Xavier Woods, like I said earlier, he's with the New Day and with the trombone, and he's a character in itself. He's already up here, and now that he's got the King gimmick, it's just going to be even more. And we're going to get to see. I think we're going to see a whole other just broad way for him to just, his humor. He's just gonna. He's just gonna make that gimmick so awesome. I can't wait to see what he does.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. All hail King Woods. The Golden Girls totally popped off of that. I'm a Game of Thrones nut myself. So when he knighted Kofi and then gave him the pendant, which I actually have one of my own. I do have a Hand of the Queen pendant because I'm a Game of Thrones nut. So
That's amazing.
I just popped. I'm like, oh my God, this is so incredible. Just like you said, everything that us little geeks like all in one. So it totally had me going. I loved it. It just kind of like piggybacking off of Tony. Xavier's role as king, I love it. I want to keep seeing it go the way it's going. But compared to Zelina as queen, they're gonna have to step up with that. Yeah, it's not really,
Yeah, it's gonna, just like a lot of the stuff, I think they're seeding. This is the beginning of a long story. I hope that they tell this story over a long term. Say what you will about him, but King Corbin, he did a great job with it. And they left that gimmick on him for a long time, so it helped to elevate him as a performer and as a character. And they could do the same for Woods. And I think Woods is one of those guys that's going to learn, like he knows how to use social media and his Twitch stream, and he's going to take that and just make it bigger than it is if you just kept it on Friday night. So I'm excited for that. The Brock sanctioning thing was stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing? Like, you're not finding him $1 million. Nobody thinks you're finding him $1 million. We're not idiots. And even if you did, he's got it. Like, he wouldn't care. He'd just show up and write you a check and beat someone else up. Like he doesn't care.
It was $1 million Monopoly money in the fine print. It was Monopoly money. So.
Yeah, that was not something. And look, I think Adam Pearce is doing a tremendous job as a general manager. I think he's awesome. 5-time former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He's got tons of personality, and he's really, really good on the mic. And he even got an Austin Powers reference in. So props to Adam Pearce, the Scrap Daddy Adam Pearce. But I'm not a fan of any of this stuff. I just let Brock come and beat up people and go away. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. That's all I need him to do. So I know we're running a little bit over. I wanted to end the show talking about Rampage because Rampage was awesome. Like there's a couple things I was on, but tell us about the Kingston match, Kingston Danielson, Trenda.
Excuse me.
What were you feeling when you were watching it?
I was excited. Just it just had me just. I mean, they pretty much had a slap fest. Just the slapping of the chest and the blistering of Danielson's chest, and I felt like Eddie looked so strong in this match. I love the psychology of it. They played off of each other so well. I was just and for the first I want to say maybe 8 or 9 minutes, it looked like Eddie was just dominating Danielson. He had him out there against the ropes and just slinging him around and just blistering him up all over, and it was just like, ugh. But it was textbook wrestling. It was real old school, and it felt good just watching them play off each other and watching them in the ring, like the technical moves on the mat. I haven't seen Eddie even fight like that. That's why I said earlier, I feel like Danielson brings something out of each wrestler that maybe we haven't even touched or tapped into or didn't even know was there for whatever reason. Because when you were there in the ring with him, everybody looks like heroes. Everybody looks 100%.
Well, and Eddie said that on Busted Open on his interview this week, that he's like, look, I'm not Kenny Omega. I'm not in there to put on a technical clinic. It's going to be a fight. Like, I'm going to bring this fight to him. And boy, did he. It was super physical. There was some technical work done in there. Like, Eddie did some stuff that I haven't really seen him do from a submission perspective. But the counters, the pace of the match, like, if anybody wants to look at Eddie Kingston and not say that he's an athlete, like, he kept up with Danielson through that whole match. You got to have good cardio to wrestle that kind of match. And it was just an all-out war. So the last thing I want to talk about is, and this makes me super happy, right? The women main evented again. Rampage, AEW, NXT, WWE, like, the women are main eventing all the time, and nobody even says anything anymore because it's just wrestlers main eventing. I didn't even see people talking about it, which is what we were aiming for, right? We want to see the best match on the card close the show. And this match with Abaddon and Britt Baker was a big moment for Abaddon. I felt like we know what Britt can do. We've seen her in that Lights Out match with Thunder Rosa, which to me is still my favorite match of the year. But Britt had to go nose to toes with a supernatural character. But Abaddon, I've never seen her wrestle this physical and technical type of match. I don't think that we've really seen this much from her. And she really brought the fight. I don't know, Tony, did you get a chance to see the highlights from the match?
Yes, I did. I saw that match. I came on Zoom with y'all at that point. I walked in the living room and saw Mark Henry doing the interview with Abaddon and Britt, and I loved the zombies behind Britt. I loved them dressed up as the zombies. But when Abaddon was on the screen, and when Mark asked her that question, and she just opened her mouth and blood just came out.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my God! I was watching Mark to see if he was gonna break, But I mean, he did a good job, with saying, "Oh, I guess she doesn't have anything to say."
He's a professional.
Yeah, but the match itself told a awesome story. I mean, the spots they did with the thumbtacks and Britt putting the thumbtacks in her mouth and then trying to do her finishing move, and then Abaddon biting her finger when she put it in her mouth. That was awesome. That they did a great job telling a story in that match. And that table, I popped today on Busted Open when I think Ryan said it he made a comment about someone on social media saying that the table had dressed up for Halloween as a New Japan table.
Oh my God, that table was.
Oh my God.
Okay,
That
so
was
like
awesome.
you have two women probably totaling between 250 to 300 pounds combined. Why didn't that total table break?
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of pressure going through that thing. It didn't give up.
Yeah.
And it looked like it hurt. The fact, I mean, not that it wasn't supposed, but the fact that they could not, I felt like they needed to go through. Like, I just wanted the table to break, please, because they look like they are hurting.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so, and
amazing.
The interesting thing too is that we don't see people when Britt gets the lockjaw on, like that's it. Yeah. Like it's a really protected finisher. So to me, to see Abaddon reverse that and defeat that with a bite, like it made sense from her character perspective to bite, but at the same time, that was interesting that they let her defeat the finisher. That's not something that they do very often for big name people, Kenny and Britt specifically.
Yeah, they protect their finishers a lot. Yeah.
So they must have had a lot of faith in the match and in getting using that to get Abaddon over, because Britt ended up winning with a roll up, right? And that was surprising to me. It was very physical, very bloody. No, it wasn't very bloody. It was a little bloody, but like it was really really good. And like
and then she did bust her arm open when they trying to go through the table.
That's true.
Part. Yeah.
And so as Bully always said, someone went over and someone got over, and I think Abaddon raised her stock a whole bunch last night. So I'm happy for her. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. There was a Hell Hath No Fury pay-per-view on earlier today. I guess it was on at like 2 p.m., which is a weird time. Thunder was there, or I think Thunder was supposed to be there fighting Jody Threat. There was a bunch of good matches on that card, including Allison Kay is on there. Eddie Kingston's on that card. Christy James, Sky Blue. So that's something, if you're looking for something to watch later, go watch the replay of that on Fight. It looks interesting. Anything else you guys want to cover before we wrap? I know we've gone a little bit over tonight.
No, it's been a great show
as always.
Glad you guys invited me.
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
Checks in the mail.
Always open for you, Trent.
I'll be looking for that check.
Yeah, so you're going to see, I wanted to mention, we talked about during our Baltimore special that a lot of us are touring the country, not touring the country, but popping up all over the country. And the Busted Open Nation is huge. Like there's people everywhere doing cool stuff. People going to the big event, and then there's, you've got an event coming up, Nation Across the Nation, you're going to be at soon, Tony, right? Is that the 13th?
The 13th in Minneapolis, Minnesota at O'Donovan's, I think it's the name of the pub they're going to be at. And I secured my tickets today, so I will be there. Anyone in the nation that's going to be there, and if you see me, come say hi. But I'm looking forward to going there and having a great time with Dave and Mark, and Gabby's going to be there. I'll get to meet Gabby for the first time, and I'm excited about that. And then later on that night, I might even get a chance to go to Full Gear. So that's still pending. So we'll see what happens. But yeah.
Yeah, and then so you've got the big show on the 20th, followed by we've got WrestleCade here in North Carolina at Winston-Salem, where we'll be attending the Nation Across the Nation with Mark and Dave. I think Thunder's appearing there. She's doing a meet and greet, and there's a bunch of AEW stars are going to be there. That's a huge event. There's a lot of good stuff happening there. And then the following weekend, a whole group of us will be at the NWA tapings at the GPB studio. So that's going to be fun to return there. And I know we're looking forward to returning to Atlanta. And then I'm sure
it'll be my first time at the GBG studio, so I'm looking forward to that.
It's, you know, it's interesting because it's kind of like a pilgrimage. People have been watching this thing on YouTube for a couple of years now, and we've been to all the tapings. So it's just, you just go and sit there and have a good time, and it's a lot of fun. But you see it on TV, and it becomes like it's in a video game now. Like that studio is like in a video game. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Make sure you like and subscribe. And I did want to give a shout out to Our Nation Sports Show. You know, Steven and Ezra and everybody over there doing a great job. Make sure you give them a follow on their YouTube channel, as well as on the socials. They do a great job streaming live every Thursday night at 7 p.m., talking all things sports. I think that's all we got tonight. Trenda, where can people find you on the socials?
I'm on Twitter at Great Times Ahead. That's GR8XSAHEAD.
Tony?
Mind blown. I didn't even know that's what that meant. That's awesome. I am at Tony Justice, AJFA. And if you're a Metallica fan, you know what that means.
And I am WWE Front Row, and you can find the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, and everything else The Nation's Corner. Thanks everybody for joining, and we will see you next week.